Happy New Year, everybody. I hope you had a good Christmas and a good New Year. I can't believe 2025, hey? What does the future hold? What does this year hold for you? Personally, I really believe this is a year where we all learn to be a bit more authentic, or maybe a lot more authentic. And what I mean by that is letting go of the old conditioning, the old ego identification that we have put on for whatever reason, because we've been conditioned, we've been told who to be, and we've worn that coat for a long time. And I think a lot of us are really outgrowing that coat. If you think about the identity as something you put on, and I think 2025 is a year where we learn to take that coat off. We really learn that actually it's okay to be us. We're all unique and different and special in our own way, and we're all worthy and important, and we matter, you matter. To think highly of ourselves doesn't mean to think I'm better than anybody else. It just means that I'm important too. And it's important that I know myself. I mean, for me, the biggest statement of all was when Socrates said, know thyself. And I do really believe that's what this coming to earth is all about, where we get to really know who we are, what we like, what we need, what makes our boat float, what gives us joy and peace and happiness, how we feel in any given moment. You know, so many of us have been taught not to feel, to be ashamed of our feelings, especially growing up. And that was partly because of the era we were brought up in, or, you know, feelings were not valued or accepted or approved of. I mean, it was just the way it was. I'm not blaming anyone. And we've come a long way, and we're doing a lot better, I think, in terms of that, teaching our children that feelings are okay. It's what we do with them. And a feeling is a part of us, just like our body is a part of us. And actually, after having worked with so many people, it's really interesting, and even people I don't work with, just generally people, and I say, how do you actually feel right now? And they have no idea. They are so not in their bodies. They're so outside of themselves. They're so, you know, walking along next to their bodies. They're not actually even in their bodies. And they've been taught for so many years not to feel, that they have no idea. It's like even a foreign concept. Oh, how do I feel? Ooh. I mean, sometimes feelings can be quite neutral, and I definitely feel that way. Sometimes I'm like, you know, people say, what do you think or feel about that? And I go, actually, I'm very neutral. I don't have a big feeling about that. But I generally know how I feel. I generally know when I'm up or down, or, you know, in a bad mood, or it's about knowing thyself and then taking responsibility for thyself. Because you cannot change what you don't own, and you can't transform what you don't know. And this is why to know thyself is the one biggest thing we can all do. And that means the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I call it that, but they're not. They're all good. It's just that we've judged them as good, bad, and ugly. And I think we first have to go there, because, you know, I have some really good traits and I have some not so good traits. And I've learned what they are, so that they don't run the show and they don't work out of me. And as you learn to do that and become more knowing of thyself, you come to live in a much more authentic space. And it's a lot easier to live in an authentic space. Because when someone says, do you want to go here? Do you want to do this? You can actually say, hand on heart, do I really want to do that? Yeah, do it. Yes, yes, yes. Make your yes, 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 yes. And no, 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 no. So make your yes, 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 and your no, 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 no. And only we can do that. And I think a lot of the people that end up with issues of anger, resentment, anxiety, depression are people that actually have spent a lot of time living life on other people's terms. They're doing things that other people want them to do, and they haven't really known themselves for whatever reason, for whatever their background. But now is a time where it's about knowing thyself, who they are, what they like, what they don't like. And sometimes that's not always easy, especially if you've got a lot of people that like the old you, who will just go along and say yes to everything and not really give them a hard time about anything. So I do understand it is a tricky journey for a lot of us. A lot of us might have to sort of let some people go, and those people might be quite close. And it's not about getting rid of everybody. It's about learning to be more authentic. And as you learn to have better boundaries, be more authentic, say yes when you mean yes, no when you mean no, stop being a people pleaser, start pleasing yourself, start knowing thyself, those people will just move away anyway. Because if they are the kind of people that want to manipulate you and realize they can't because you're actually doing better or having better boundaries, they'll just move away. They'll just naturally, organically, probably not want to spend time with you because, you know, you're not as much fun or you're not doing what they want you to do. So a lot of the time you don't even have to push people away or, you know, cut people off. You just be more authentically you. You just do more of you, take care of you. You'll find they'll just disappear out of your world. They kind of have to. It's like there's nothing in it for them, and they know that. They know they can't walk all over you or take stuff from you. And of course, you know, when you're the kind of person that is a chronic people pleaser, you're actually a very vulnerable person. So people that are more likely to use and abuse are attracted to people like that because they can manipulate, they can cajole them. And another subject I really wanted to talk about was guilt, because I think a lot of us feel so guilty all the time because we're not able to please everybody, and we're not able to please anybody, and it's actually not our job to please anybody. And I think Christmas is a great time because, you know, we want to be here, there, everyone wants us to come over, or, you know, we're home. It's a tricky time because we're trying to please everybody, and, you know, if you've got in-laws and parents and kids, and some of us want to spread ourselves out too thin, and we end up not really enjoying ourselves over the Christmas time and the New Year because we have to say no to some people, and we end up feeling guilty. And guilt is an interesting emotion to kind of start to learn to manage. And I think if you're someone who does struggle with guilt, then that needs addressing, because you don't want to go into this new year being bombarded with feelings of guilt. Especially, I always say there's guilt. Now, guilt is a normal feeling that everyone has, and if you do something wrong, the normal response is you feel bad and you feel guilty. Now, that's because you've got a conscience, and, you know, your conscience says, oh, I feel guilty. And that's a good thing. That kind of keeps us on the straight and narrow. Guilt isn't a bad emotion. I think it's a very healthy, good emotion. But it's when you have toxic guilt. Now, toxic guilt is when you feel you've done something wrong, but actually it isn't wrong at all. So if you said to someone asked you out, and you said, oh no, I don't really want to go, or I can't go, or I'm busy, or whatever, and then you feel guilt, well, that's kind of toxic guilt because you haven't done anything wrong. Guilt is a feeling you have when you've done something wrong. You meeting your own needs, you doing what you want, you saying no to something is you're not doing anything wrong. Whereas a lot of people will think they have, and that's why it's the difference between guilt, which is very normal, healthy response to some things, and then toxic guilt, which is toxic. It's actually you haven't done anything wrong. You doing what you want and not pleasing everybody else, there's nothing wrong with that. Whereas a lot of people will feel guilty And so that's something that maybe you need to address as the beginning of the year starts. And, you know, and it's a great time to, I think, do things a bit different. So there's looking within, looking at yourself deeply, looking at all your good, your bad, your ugly. You know, I used to have anger. Well, that would have been my ugly. I don't anymore. And that's because I reflected and realized, yes, I'm angry. And instead of playing blame games and going, well, you made me angry, which is at one time I probably would have done that, it's about me going, well, actually, this is my anger, it's my responsibility. And so as I reflected and looked in on myself and realized it's my emotion, my responsibility, and I started to take responsibility and hold myself accountable, I started to learn to manage my anger. Well, why was I angry? And a lot of the time it was because I was saying yes when I meant no. The ultimate betrayal of self is when you say yes when you mean no. And this is why I was angry. I was angry at me because I wasn't taking care of me. I was too worried about taking care of everybody else. Well, that was because I'd been conditioned very early on, you know, to meet everyone else's needs. Now, that's just the way it was growing up back in the day. It really was. It's like, you know, parents used to say to us, you make me angry. So we felt responsible for their emotions. So if they're disappointed, that was, you know, we did something wrong, we're bad. Because there's no such thing as unconditional love, I think. As a parent, that is really hard to do. Unconditionally love your kids. I mean, the more mature you are, the more you can do that. I think I can do that a lot better now than I ever did then. But I'm a human being and I have feelings and I get triggered. So it's about being kind, being gentle, being compassionate, holding yourself in slightly high esteem than perhaps you have in the past. You know, I think especially me, I do realize that, you know, I see myself as less than, and so everyone's more important. And I really had to do, and that still comes into play sometimes, especially when I'm stressed. And this is another thing, when you have done all your work, and, you know, I've been doing this for 30 years now, and I'm constantly in recovery. I'm never not in recovery. I'm always assessing myself, taking stock, reflecting. If I have an emotional response and I get triggered, then that's my journey. That's the recovery process. And so it's ongoing. It never ends. It's like taking care of your body never ends. You keep doing it, don't you? You get up, brush your teeth, comb your hair, we bathe, we take care of the body, we control this, we manage the emotions. And so being in recovery is constantly tapping in with yourself, checking in. Where am I at? Now, over Christmas, a lot of things happening. My eldest daughter was struggling and she was in hospital, and I was quite stressed. Now, when you're being squeezed by life, as I call it, like the cloth being squeezed, and if you squeeze hard enough, and that's the pressures of life, all the dirt runs out the cloth, and we will sometimes flip back into old patterns. Now, for me, when I'm stressed, I think I get a bit anxious. And when I'm anxious, I want to control things that I know I have no control over, like what someone else does or someone else says or something like that. And so it's about knowing thyself. Now, I knew that, yes, I was under a bit of stress over the Christmas period. I was a bit anxious and I kind of got a little bit control-y. Now, I'm able to, in those moments, still reflect back and say, okay, I don't want to do that. That's not going to work for me. I can't control anybody, and trying to control everybody will get you every time because you can't do that. And it's actually quite hard to be around somebody that wants to control you. So that's not who I want to be. That's not me living and being the person I want to be, because I'm acting out of old behaviors because I'm being squeezed by life. And so for me, it was taking stock. It didn't happen right in the moment it happened. It took me a few days to go, oh, what's going on with me? And come back and realize, actually, I probably am feeling quite stressed, even though I didn't feel stress. Stress is the silent killer, isn't it? I didn't actually feel this stress as in I wasn't really aware of it, but I knew because of what was happening that I probably was stressed. Because if I thought about somebody else going through what I was going through, what would I say to them? Well, you're under quite a bit of pressure. You've got, a daughter in hospital, and that's scary, and it can be stressful. Absolutely. And so to actually come back and be kind and gentle and compassionate. And as I did that and created the safe space inside of me, I let go of that trying to control. Because when you don't feel control on the inside, you kind of want to control the outside, and that's just what we do. And it can come out in interesting behaviours for me. It might look, I get overly clean and tidy, and I want to clean stuff up. I want to do a lot of things. I don't want to sit still, because if I sit still, I'd probably connect with that feeling of anxiety within me. So it's not always something you can feel as well, but sometimes you can look at your behaviors. For me, I would tend to look at my behavior. What am I doing? I can see that I'm kind of trying to be very doey and very controlling, and wanting things to happen my way, and that is an indication. So come back, look at what you're doing, come back. Okay, maybe I'm feeling a bit stressed, a bit anxious. But anyway, all is well. She's now out of hospital, so everything's okay. And like everything, it always passes, and it's got better, and everything's fine. So I just wanted to come on here and say hello, Happy New Year, and just encourage you all to make this a year of knowing thyself, really learning all you can about you, because you're fascinating, you're amazing, and be curious about you. You can't be curious and judgmental at the same time. Do you say yes when you mean no? So just take a moment, put your hand on your heart, close your eyes. Maybe we'll just finish with a little bit of meditation, just a little bit of just close your eyes and breathe in and breathe out. And just for a moment, let your focus move from here down into the body, into the heart space. Knowing and understanding, taking care and being in this heart space. So just being curious, no judgment, and just breathing in and breathing out. And make sure you breathe all the way out. We want to empty all that stale air at the bottom of your lungs. That's really important, to breathe in and just keep breathing in and breathing out, and just put your hand on your heart. And just focus down into the body, into this heart space, so you can learn to know thyself at a deeper level. And really start to learn about you and understand you. No one else can understand you. You're really the only one that really needs and wants to be able to understand you. And if the cry of your heart is, people don't understand me, then maybe it's because you don't understand you. And maybe in this new year, you can learn to understand you at a much deeper level, as we move into a year where I think we're all being called to be more authentic, more true to ourselves, and to really know ourselves, so we can become the person we want to be, as opposed to the person we were conditioned to be. And just keep breathing in and breathing out, and keep focusing down into the heart space. And just spend a few moments connecting in with yourself. And what do you notice? What do you notice happening deep inside? Now, if you're feeling quite relaxed and calm, then you can just stop the video and stop here and just keep focusing down and noticing, just for a few minutes. Doesn't have to be long. Start small. I think people think, oh, I've got to meditate for 20 minutes or what have you. No, just a few minutes, just tapping in with yourself. Start small, but do that just a tiny little bit every day. It's amazing how much you can get so much better if you practice just a tiny little bit every day. Just be curious. Write it down if you want to. Now, if anything has resonated with you on this chat today, like you want to learn to be more authentic, or you want to not be such a people pleaser, or learn to manage those feelings and realize that, maybe you are having a lot of toxically guilty feelings happen, then don't hesitate to reach out. I'm here to help and support if you would like that. I do one-on-one. I love doing one-on-one. I think you can get down and get deep, and that's where my passion lies. And I love working with people one-on-one. So don't hesitate to reach out. And until the next time, you take care. Bye for now.